take a minute and learn how to solve equations in quadratic form or solve quadratics. Okay, the first thing you need to do when you have a quadratic equation is get all your terms on the same side in descending order. And we say descending order meaning the exponents. So I'm going to start off moving this x over and moving this 110 over by adding x and subtracting 110. So let's add x and subtract 110 from both sides. Okay, so what ends up happening over here on the left is we have an x squared, and then we have a positive x, a negative 110 is equal to 0. So we want to get the quadratic equal to 0. Now we need to factor it, okay? So what multiplies to 110 but has a difference of 1, okay? Well, that's 10 times 11. So I'm going to have a 10 and an 11 as my two factors when I factor it. And I have to have a positive 1. So these two terms have to combine to positive 1, which means my 11 must be positive and my 10 must be negative. Okay, so we get down here and factor that. Now, once you get it factored, you have to look at each case. When is x minus 10 equal to 0? And when is x plus 11 equal to 0? And just solve a basic equation. So you add 10 to both sides on this one. And so I get x is just positive 10. And over here I'm going to subtract 11. And I'm going to get x is equal to negative 11. So this one has two solutions. And that's how you solve a quadratic. The factoring method. There are several different methods, but this is what we're doing to solve this quadratic. Now let's look at a second one that's a little bit more involved, but we can also factor this one. Okay, so there are several ways to factor. The easiest way to do this one is probably guess and check. Okay, I've got to factor this one. And notice, to start with, our equation is already in descending order equal to 0, so I don't have to move anything around. I can go straight to factoring. Okay, I've got to factor 2x squared. Well, 2x squared, the only way it's going to factor in the front here is a 2x and an x, because that multiplies to 2x squared. Now in the back I have 15. So my factors are either 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. Okay, because I've got kind of a small number in the middle, I'm thinking it must be the 3 and the 5. So let's play around with this. I'm going to stick a 3 here and a 5 here. I know that multiplies to 15, but I've got to somehow get a combination of 7 in the middle. So let's play around with this. I know the last term is negative, so one's positive and one's negative. So I'll put a positive here and a negative here, and if it's not right, I can flip the signs. But let's try that. Okay, when you FOIL, remember we check the outer, that's negative 10, and the inner is positive 3x, so that adds up to negative 7x. Ah, that's the right number. Okay, had it been the right number but the wrong sign, I would have flipped the signs. Or if it hadn't worked, I could have flip-flopped the 3 and the 5 and tried again. Okay, so this is the correct factoring. So I'm going to rewrite the correct factoring down here just to clean this up. Okay, now I have to look at my two cases. When are these equal to 0? Well, if 2x plus 3 is equal to 0, then I subtract 3 from both sides, and I have to divide by 2. So that means x would be negative 3 halves. So there's one solution. Let's go look at the second solution, x minus 5. When is it equal to 0? Well, this one's an easy one. There's no fraction, no division. I can just bring it down, add 5 to both sides, so x is 5. And there are my two solutions to my quadratic. And this is just one of the many ways to solve a quadratic.